Oh, hello. I totally set up this camera deliberately. Congrats on getting your brand new Nintendo Switch 2. You could just pop that sucker right out of the box and start playing Mario Kart World. It's designed to be simple to set up, but there are some small little tricks to get you the most out of what you already have right there. Some settings and important details that Nintendo doesn't exactly explain to you very well. Maybe you don't want to just play Mario Kart World. You have access to way more games than just that. And does it say that anywhere on the box or in the instructions? No, of course not. When you first turn on your Switch 2, among other things, it will ask you to put in your microSD express card. You don't have to do this if you don't have one. The Nintendo Switch 2 has 256 gigabytes of internal storage, which is more than enough for most people to get them started. You can always get a microSD express card later down the line. After this prompt, it will make you sign in, and if you have an original Nintendo Switch 1 with some stuff on it, you can transfer your save data over, which you're definitely going to want to do. If you have a bunch of digital games on your Switch 1, it will not be transferring these over. It will re-download them after the transfer is done, all at once. I had close to a terabyte of digital games on my old Switch, and I obviously don't have the room for all of that on my new Switch. To cancel all of these downloads that were going on at once, I just restarted the Switch 2. That stopped them all. You can then, of course, just manually pick the ones you'd like to re-download. Sometimes people have issues re-downloading all of their old games because their old Switch might still be registered as their primary console. The transfer process should take care of this, making your Switch 2 your new primary console, but sometimes things get screwed up. If you have any issues, head over to the eShop, click on your little icon, go down to where it says Pass-Enabled Console, and make sure it says this console. If it doesn't, like mine here, you might want to deregister your old console. There's two ways to do this. If you have access to your old Switch still, you can just go to this same area and click deregister. If you don't have access to that Switch anymore, you can do it on their website. You can go to ec.nintendo.com/my, and once you're signed in, scroll all the way down to deregister pass-enabled console and then follow the steps from there. Then you'll need to go back to your new Switch, the one that you want to be the primary, and just log into the eShop, and it should automatically be your primary. Now it says Pass-Enabled Console, this system. Yay. Wasn't that easy and not convoluted at all. If you're primarily going to be using your new Switch 2 as your main console, you're probably going to want to make sure it's set to your primary console. These are things that Nintendo makes needlessly complicated, especially for a family console. There's a lot of games that you can just play for free right now on your brand new console. Some of them you might have even transferred from your Switch 1 already. Fortnite is free, but if you transfer that from your Switch 1, it transfers the Switch 1 version, which will not work. Go to the eShop and download the Switch 2 version. It is way better than the Switch 1 version. Apex Legends is the same way, and they don't always make it clear which version you're playing. So make sure you're using the Switch 2 versions of games that have a Switch 2 version. There's also a ton of first-party Nintendo games that have free or paid updates on the Switch 2. Most of them will just work and they're totally fine and they're free and you don't have to do anything. But some of them are paid and you have to go find them, like the 4K Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom updates. If you just play these games on your Switch 2, you won't be playing them in 4K unless you manually get the update. Don't buy these updates. They make it very easy for you to just give them $10. They almost tricked me with this. If you have a paid Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack account, you can get these updates for free or as part of that subscription. So you don't have to pay the $10. So if you have the higher tier of Switch Online, click the red NSO icon on the home screen, go down to expansion pack, then swipe over to the Zelda pack upgrades. Don't click this, click this. Now, you just saved yourself 10 or 20 bucks. If you don't have Nintendo Switch Online, it's not 100% necessary, but I would highly recommend it. Not only does it allow you to play games like Mario Kart World online with other people, but it also has just a litany of great games. It opens the floodgates to some old retro libraries and other stuff. The retro libraries are huge now. It has some of the best games of all time that still hold up today. Super Mario World, Link to the Past, Kirby's Dream Course, And the expansion pack tier gets you even better stuff. Game Boy Advance games like Metroid Fusion. Super Mario Advance 4 has the e-reader levels, which would be extremely impractical to find in the real world. Legend of Zelda 4 Swords co-op. It's way easier to play here on some Switches than it would be to get a bunch of Game Boy Advances and some link cables and a bunch of people who have Legend of Zelda 4 Swords in the real world. You also get the new GameCube library on the Switch too. They just added Wario World. Sometimes there's even game trials for Nintendo Switch Online members. So if you're not a retro guy, you can get some brand new games. Sometimes they'll let you just play a game for free for a weekend. I think the most recent one was Disney Illusion Island. In the past, there's been some pretty stellar games. Currently, I don't think there's any game trials available right now. If you, say, have some eShop gift cards and you don't have Nintendo Switch Online, but you would like it, you can use those gift cards to get a Nintendo Switch Online subscription. If you think you have enough games to play and you like some of the things Nintendo Switch Online has to offer, this might be worth it to unlock a lot more features on your Switch 2. The Switch 2 and its Joy-Con currently only come in black. And you might notice mine looks a little bit different. I should probably address that because I know I'm going to get a lot of comments. I did a shell swap a little bit ago. Shell modding is kind of a lot of work. I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. It takes a lot of time. A lot could go wrong. It requires some additional tools like a small precision screwdriver. I used the LTT store precision screwdriver kit, like I've used for many projects over the past year.
Oh, I got the wrong battery again. Oh, it's right here. It's right here.
They also happen to be this video's sponsor. This is the first time they're sponsoring, but they sent me this multi-bit precision screwdriver kit last year, and since then, I've been using it for all my modding projects. A clear IPS modded Game Boy Advance. And why doesn't mine look like that? Now they're launching their Prismatic series for their Prime LTT screwdriver. It's transparent, like it's the 2000s.
You get one day off. She wants you to do everything. Can't find my glasses. Sucks.
It has a satisfying ratchet and magnetic tips. It's specifically made for PC building, so electronics should be no problem.
Oh, it's a triple slot? Oh, your mother's ass. My sister's ass.
All of the bits go conveniently right in the handle, and it's curved to fit right into your hand. We basically built this whole studio with this screwdriver kit. Isn't that neat? Visit lttstore.com to get your precision screwdriver kit or these new transparent ones, which go on sale this Friday, December 26th. That's lttstore.com. That's Linus Tech Tips. Did you know that?
I recorded the ratcheting so she thinks I'm working.
Honey!
I'm doing things! If you still don't want to spend any money, but you want some more games to play, and you don't want any of that free-to-play stuff, there is still a litany of demos to try out on your brand new Switch 2. On the eShop website, you can filter by Switch 2 and demo available. There's more than I was expecting. Donkey Kong Bonanza, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Star Wars Outlaws, Street Fighter VI, they all have demos available right now. These are great ways to push your new Switch 2 to its limits and get a taste for some of these great games before you spend any of your hard-earned money on them. The Adventures of Elliot still has a demo available as well. I'm not sure why it's not on the list on their website. It's like if Square Enix made a retro Zelda game. It's sick. And there's even more demos if you consider the Switch 1 games. There's a whole lot you can do with your new console without spending a dime. Some people are understandably a little upset that it's almost 2026 and we still don't have themes besides black and white on our Nintendo Switch 2 home screens. But we do have game folders. Isn't that nice? It's really called game groups. So if you're like me and you have a ton of games, or maybe you've just downloaded a million demos and you'd like a way to organize them better, you can pop them into folders. This will only work if you have more than 12 games or apps. From this screen, press the right bumper and then click Create New Group, and then select the games or apps you'd like to use. Unfortunately, these folders don't sit on your home screen. I wish they would. You still need to navigate to the All Software area and press the right bumper to bring up the groups. It's only really useful if you have like a ton of games. There's some pretty neat controller settings we can mess with too. If you're new to Nintendo and you can't wrap your head around pressing this button on the controller for select and this button to go back, it's actually a setting that will swap the A and B buttons. It's under controllers and accessories. You can also change the button mappings of your controller if you'd like. That is under accessibility for some reason. This is only really useful in some very minor use cases if you want a game to behave differently and the in-game controller settings don't give you enough options. But I've been seeing a lot of people remap the C button on the right Joy-Con. This button exists to get you into game chat quickly. Nobody uses that. You can set it to any other button. Left stick click, another A button for rapid presses, whatever. If you have a Pro Controller, I would highly suggest turning on Pro Controller wired communication. This is under controllers and accessories. This will allow you to plug a controller in and the data will transfer through the cable instead of just wirelessly. This is faster and more reliable than just a wireless connection. There are also settings to change those back buttons on the Pro Controller if you'd like. If you have any controllers for your Switch 1, whether they be first party or third party, chances are they're going to work on the Switch 2 as well. Not all of them do. If you're lucky, they should just work. Some just won't work at all, but some do require a firmware update. The 8-bit Do controllers are extremely easy to update with their updater tool. Just do a little research into which controller you have and whether or not it's compatible before you go through all that trouble. Here's a list of the 8-bit Do ones that need an update that I could find. Let's talk about some technical things that you should do right off of the bat. This should be pretty obvious to some people, but please, for the love of God, use all of the cables that they provided you in the box. There's a new, better HDMI cable and a new, better power brick. Definitely do not just unplug your old dock and plug in the new one. You can use a third-party HDMI cable. Just make sure it's an ultra-high-speed HDMI cable. Some people can get away with just a regular old high-speed HDMI cable. But if you don't know what any of that stuff means, then you're not one of those people. Just use the stuff that they gave you for the best experience. That way, you can experience your brand new console in glorious 4K 60 Hz, or even 1080p 120 Hz if your TV is capable. And don't you ever let me catch you using your dock with any power adapter other than the one that came in the box. We don't want another Nyko situation going on. I would also suggest changing some TV settings. Change your color mode to standard or neutral or whatever the equivalent would be on your TV so that the colors aren't oversaturated and blown out. The Switch 2 also supports HDR. The HDR is kind of bad. It's like barely HDR. If you are having any problems whatsoever, if you think that your image looks a little blown out or it looks a little too saturated or undersaturated, even if you have the TV's color settings set to neutral or standard and it still looks weird, I'd suggest just turn it off HDR. I do this sometimes. Sometimes, honestly, it just ain't worth it. If you'd like to do a little bit of work yourself, HD TV Tests on YouTube just posted a recent video talking about a new update Nintendo just pushed out, which changes the way that HDR works on the Switch 2. If your HDR doesn't look right and you want to make it look perfect, you should definitely check out his video and go through the steps that he did to dial it in perfectly on your display. Or you can just be lazy like me and just turn it off. Especially if you don't have a top-of-the-line TV, not only are you not missing much, it might even look better with HDR off. If you don't have a fancy TV at home, you might have a better time playing your Nintendo Switch 2 just on a computer monitor. You'd usually get less input latency on a computer monitor. Sometimes you can even get better, more accurate colors on a computer monitor. And computer monitors are typically capable of higher frame rates, the type of frame rates that the Switch 2 is capable of. It's my preferred way to play a game like Metroid Prime 4. Slap this guy into performance mode for fast 120 frames per second gameplay. And play it at a desk to try out mouse mode. You'd be surprised how much better playing at a desk on a monitor can be. And if you don't have any display in your house at all, I'm trying to do this so you don't have to buy anything extra. You have a display right here. It is a handheld after all. I'd imagine it's pretty rare for most people to have any display in their house capable of over 60 Hz. This one, built in right here, is capable of 120. That's 120 frames per second gameplay. So if a game supports it, like Metroid Prime 4, or Hades 2 even, or Hollow Knight Silksong, those work at 120 frames. You should try any of these at least once in handheld just to experience what high frame rates are like. If you've never experienced games at high frame rates before, animations are bizarrely smooth. But what's more important than that is the responsiveness. There is significantly less input latency at high frame rates. So games at higher frame rates just feel way better. Unfortunately, the Switch 2's built-in display doesn't have the best high frame rate performance. So if you have the option to use an external display for high frame rates, you should try it at least once in your life. This last little tip or trick that I got is a little bit of a complicated one, so I saved it for the end. Virtual game cards. Everyone loves those. This is Nintendo's way of trying to simplify the way you manage digital games. In my opinion, they made it so needlessly complicated. The idea is that you can now transfer digital games between systems as if they were on a physical cartridge. You might notice every time you buy or download a digital game, it will do this little virtual game card animation, like it's inserting the game into your system. This now means you can't play the game on another Switch unless you transfer the game over and then it leaves this Switch and goes to the next one. It makes bouncing between systems a huge pain. This also means you get a stupid animation every time you play the game. Virtual game cards are useful if you're trying to have somebody else on their own system play your digital games. But if you're going to be sharing accounts on your own Switch, your primary Switch 2, you can completely turn off virtual game cards. If this is your primary Switch and you have 1 million games, all of the profiles on your Switch can play all of these games. And you don't need virtual game cards. You can turn them off. Click your little icon, go to user settings, and set use online license to on. Now you won't have to see that stupid animation. Even with the use online licenses on, you can still send your virtual game cards to another person's Switch if you really want to. They're all right here, virtual game cards. And you log in, and here's all your virtual game cards. And if you click on one, you can even lend to family group member. That might be useful if maybe you're not going to be around that family member or their Switch for a long time. The whole primary Switch, secondary Switch thing is a little bit of a nightmare to navigate. This came in handy recently. I got Metroid Prime 4 digitally, and my wife wanted to play it. If we were to do the virtual game card method, we would have to put both Switch 2s next to each other and transfer the game back and forth whenever one of us wanted to play it on our Switch. That would be super annoying. But if she just uses whatever Switch I have set to my primary, she can use her account on my Switch 2 and play my digital copy of Metroid Prime 4. The only benefit to the virtual game card method that I can think of is if you're going on a trip and the secondary Switch isn't going to have internet access for an extended period of time. Then you can load the game onto here once and it won't have to constantly check the internet to play the game. Sharing digital games between consoles and between accounts is something that a lot of families are going to want to utilize, and it's something that Nintendo should make a lot more clear. Virtual game cards give you a nice visualization, but they create a needless barrier that requires the game to only be loaded on one Switch console at a time. Obviously, if you have just one Switch console with multiple accounts on it, all the accounts can play all the digital games. They just might require an internet connection for you to play it. Finally, once you're unlocking the system, press A once, and then press some other buttons. Each button makes a silly little sound. Isn't that neat? Sorry. Some people might have made it all the way through this video and maybe they don't even have a Switch 2. Maybe they want one and they weren't able to get one, and that sucks. Let's give one away. How about you go into the description of this video? There'll be a tweet that will then link to a giveaway, because YouTube doesn't like when I just put the giveaways in the description. So maybe you can get one. Have happy holidays. What do you guys think? What else should you be doing with your brand new Nintendo Switch 2? What have you done already if you got one and you're futzing around with it? Or are you taking notes for when you finally get yourself a Nintendo Switch 2? Leave it in the comments below. At me on Twitter and all this other social media garbage. Thank you, LTTstore.com, for sponsoring. Don't forget to check out this, get yourself a screwdriver. You should check out our podcast over on youtube.com/WolffDenPodcast. The names you're seeing here are people who support that Patreon over there. I thank you guys very kindly. The most important thing you can do to help support us is just subscribe right here, please. I'm sure you already knew some of these tips, but if you didn't know one of them, I deserve a subscribe. Thank you. And share this video with somebody who's getting a brand new Switch too. Thank you very much. Have yourself a very good week.